This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Netflix has a new, monstrous story to tell. In 1950s Wisconsin, Ed Gein lived quietly on a decaying farm, hiding a house of horrors so gruesome it would redefine the American nightmare. Driven by isolation, psychosis, and an all-consuming obsession with his mother, he committed crimes that would haunt Hollywood for decades. The third and most harrowing installment of Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan's anthology series. Watch Monster, the Ed Gein story, October 3rd, only on Netflix.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Spade Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes, too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders, because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now listen, there will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
And I'm still going by Richard Spade Jr.
And let me tell you something. We are coming at you for another Spotlight episode.
We're doing a coming at you?
We're doing a coming at you. We're doing a coming at you. It's another Spotlight episode we're very excited about on this very episode.
Dude, we couldn't be more excited. And by the way, shocked and surprised.
Shocked and surprised. We've got the one and only Sera Gamble.
I honestly thought we'd never get Sera Gamble. She's too busy doing a million other shows. I think somehow, I don't know, she's sick of your crap. I don't know. I just feel like we'd never get her.
Yeah, I'm sure it's because she's sick of my crap. We're very excited to have her, and we have lots of burning questions. We can't wait to ask her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've even heard an interview with Sera Gamble. I feel like we're pioneers in the field.
Yeah.
And with the show just celebrating its 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
I mean, the show just celebrated, Supernatural.
Yeah.
It's the 20th anniversary of its airing. What a great time to interview Sera Gamble, who was there from the beginning and then became the showrunner after Kripke. Like, what a valuable, essential member of the team and of the show's success.
Richard, you and I we're turning into real good reporters. You
we
know
are.
What I mean? We're getting the news before it's news.
And we're breaking it. We're breaking the news.
We're breaking it down. We're breaking it down. Yeah. That's right, everyone. It's a Spotlight episode.
Spotlight. This is where I sing it. Spotlight. It's Sera Gamble. Spotlight.
That's our new hit, Spotlight. Stream it wherever you get your music. Okay, Sera Gamble. She wrote or co-wrote 63 episodes of Supernatural over her 7 years with the show.
Unbelievable. That's a ton.
It's a ton. She went on to create or co-create such hits as The Magicians and You,
Which both were big hit
series
shows.
that we
You is still a big hit show. She's a hit maker.
She's also worked on such series as Physical and Aquarius, and we sat down and had a fantastic conversation with her. In fact, here is that conversation with Sera Gamble.
Right out of the gate, this is so cool that you're doing this. Like, I honestly, we're just thrilled to have you. We've never had a conversation with you about any part of this show or this season or anything. So this is so great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and obviously we talk about you all the time, and yeah, it's just so great to have you.
I've come to answer for my crimes.
Well, you started. So tell us what was your supernatural origin story? Because you've been on it. You started were you at season 1?
Mm-hmm. I was like the first one in the building. Yeah.
OG.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Not OJ. That's not what you are.
Maybe also the OJ. Back then there was a thing called a staffing season where there was like a regular tempo to making television, and we made many episodes every season, and it was mostly on broadcast network. So there was a time of year where you kind of couch hopped from showrunner meeting to showrunner meeting. And I had made I was like a baby who had made maybe 12 episodes of a show that got canceled in 4 or 5 episodes. And I was like, okay, so this is what that's going to be. But my then writing partner, Rael, and I worked really hard on that season and got along great with the showrunner and with the studio. So the woman who was covering at the studio, the executive, very kindly called a bunch of Warner Brothers showrunners and said, you should meet with these lower level girls. They swing a little above their weight. And that's how we ended up in the Wonderland offices meeting Eric Kripke, who was like 10 years old, I think, at the time. And I was 6.
Well, and you were about this. I mean, you're
yeah. And also a 750-year-old Forest Witch, both things at the same time. Yes. We were all like, in retrospect, we were basically all teenagers. And I loved the pilot when I read it. And then they let us see it. They took us into a special room and they showed us the pilot under lock and key. And it was gorgeous. And then Eric was an enigma in the meeting. I remember it was very hard to read what he was thinking. And I wasn't sure how to get the job because I'd never written anything like that show before. When I got into the business, I kind of thought I was a comedy writer. And and then I just wrote a bunch of specs to get any job because I needed employment. And I had just worked on a procedural about private eyes. But I really loved the stuff that he was planning to do in Supernatural. So I think just the strength of the passion of like the lifelong love of horror movies and dark German fairy tales, and we kind of saw eye to eye. So he hired Rael and me, and then I just like didn't leave the building for 7 years.
Wow,
That's
amazing,
awesome.
Yeah.
And Rael, at some point did you go then separate from each other?
Yeah, we were only actually a writing team for 1 season, and then we split up and worked side by side for 1 season, and then she left to go do another show, and I stayed. Yeah, it's funny because I'm pretty sure we're like the very lowest level people when we started.
Wow.
But like really happy to interrupt people to get a word in edgewise, which was kind of what was required. I mean, I can be pushy when I need to be, so I held my own.
Right.
Yeah. And then, you know what happened, the rest of it.
Are you guys still tight as buddies?
Rael and I?
Yeah.
Rael?
Yeah, we still, have a friend group we're like those besties, like right when for me, it was like right when I was leaving college. And so we're having now these kind of parallel careers where I get to kind of cheer her on from the sidelines and be a big fan of her work. And
that's awesome.
I won't speak for her, but I'm a big fan of her work.
That's a big step to be doing together, to go into your first show. And, that's a bonding experience to be certain. It
really, really is. It frankly was probably part of why we were so employable when we entered the business. It's kind of a 2-for-1 special. And I knew nothing about TV writing when I had written a few scripts, of course, with Rael, but it was a mystery. I had never been an assistant. I had never been a PA. So the night before my first day of work, I remember calling our agent and being like, what happens in a writer's room? And she did not know how to answer the question. She was just like kind of stunned that I had been that stupid. So I just went in there and I was like, okay, I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. And so that is how, so it was really nice to have someone in there, together and to try and kind of decode the language together. And then we very quickly realized we were sort of like too much writer for a writing team. Both of us really would benefit from being solo writers, and we have. I mean, if you IMDb her, it speaks for itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how cool though that you both kind of were getting your
cutting your teeth on this
your
show
feet wet,
with
the show. And did you in the 7 seasons you were there? Did do you feel like it changed a lot? Did the room change? Did it stay the same? I mean, especially for the Kripke years, the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did it grow in those first 5 years?
It's so funny. You've talked to other writers, so you know we didn't have a typical writer's room.
It was a weird, yeah. We have been told that.
Kripke's
Yeah,
weird. That's the point of me being here, is to talk some shit about Eric Kripke, right?
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, sure,
I hope you
yeah.
do.
Disc Crip, we call this. This is the Disc Crip. Do you so for you though, you're going in that room, you'd never been in a writer's room. Really? Oh, I guess you had on your
I had
previous show.
for about half of a season, yeah.
Okay, so you recognize the difference for what this one was.
Yeah, I was in the room like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week on the other show, and then got to this one and it was like, well, we're going to meet like 4 or 5 times a year just to pitch areas, and then you're going to go off and figure it out. And I think 2 things. First of all, it was very tough for a lot of people because a writer's room is full of helpful people who will push an idea up a hill. And it also revealed people's strengths, right? And it also wasn't like we were sent off to Antarctica. We went to each other we hung out in each other's offices and we broke the stories together frequently. Like I spent a lot of time on Ben Edlund's couch. We just didn't, I don't think that Eric and Bob liked the idea of everybody being in one room working on one thing all the time, which makes perfect sense to me in a procedural, because so much of these episodes are standalone that it's like, we'll go do the standalone work and then we'll come together to talk about the serialized stuff.
Right.
So who was that lineup at the time? It was you and Rael. It was Ben. It was
John
Eric.
Chibin, Richard Haddam. I think Catherine Humphris was our writer's assistant then.
Okay.
And there were probably a couple more, and I don't remember. I came on your podcast in fear of being tested and not remembering anything.
Whatever you know more than we know. So that's it. But I just think about like that show was on forever.
It was.
And so much of its success is built on the launch. It's a great pilot, obviously very well shot, beautifully cast by Jared Denson and everybody else who fills in even the small roles in that pilot. It's just a great pilot. And then the OG writing staff, like you guys are the foundation that launched, and you especially, but at that point you didn't know that. But you guys were the foundation that launched that show, that sort of helped cement it into the pantheon of TV history where it now resides. And that's just it's fun to look back at that lineup of writers and go, you don't know that you're going to be doing that, but you are.
I mean, a lot of really formidable writers came out of the camp in total, but I got to say, like, my early memories of the show were of trying not to get fired. And then I think probably that was like, if the show were a person, it would be like, I spent 3 years trying not to get fired. Like every year we were on the bubble, we were not a big hit out the gate, and we were not entirely similar to the other stuff that was on that network. And it always felt like we were on the verge of cancellation. I think that's part of the reason that the show is kind of a delight in its first couple of seasons, because Eric would walk in every day, people would pitch something for later, and he'd be like, there's no later. We're doing that now. And we were very bold about burning through story. It's like smoke 'em if you got 'em was kind of our motto.
Right.
And then it felt from the inside, I don't know, I haven't seen the actual numbers, but it felt from the inside like something happened in season 4. And so maybe it was Misha. I don't know. Do you think it's like you brought Misha on and then suddenly the show was a hit? No, it was, I mean, by then we had a huge dedicated base around the world. But also something shifted with the network in season 4. And suddenly it felt like our position in the universe was a little bit more stable and steady. And then of course there was the moment in season 5 where Eric came, because we thought we were going to be done in 5 seasons if we were lucky. And then he came in and he was like, we're not done. We're not going to be done. You want to do it?
So let's talk about that conversation.
Yeah, what was that conversation like?
Walk us through that.
I mean, have you heard about it from Eric? I don't want to speak for him too much.
Yeah, no. He has talked about that sort of changing of the guard and how he knew you were the one and went to you. But I don't know the detail. Receiving that conversation from your side is going to be a very different experience than him delivering it.
I mean, I think I have to lead with how grateful I am to him, because he completely changed the course of my career when he made that offer to me. I remember my contract was up at the end of season 4, and he came to me and he's like, just one more, and we'll just blow it all up. It's going to be great. Here's the plan. And we all thought that's what we were going to get. And I made a fairly rare, for that time, 1 season deal
Wow.
And was just like, yeah, I'm going to come back and blow up the fucking universe with this guy. And then midway through, he sat down and it was mid-season. So he was tired and I was tired. And he was like, it's not over. And I had a plan to do 5 seasons exactly the way I wanted to do it. And that's what I've done. And he expressed, when he was talking to me about it, it was very much as an artist. It was like he didn't want to repeat himself. He didn't want to do fan service in the derogatory sense of the term. He wanted to respect the fans more than that. And he just was like, for this to go on and continue to feel fresh and have real blood in it, I think I need to create a lineage. And it'll be a little different when you do it, but that's part of the deal. Think of it as the sequel, because we are blowing everything up and then you have to start over. And I was like, the truth is I went home and cried. I'm not a crier at all. I'm pretty tough.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
But I was like, really, I knew immediately that I would take the offer for sure. I wanted to be a showrunner. I wanted to create shows, and people don't just hand you the keys to that because it's a lot of money that you'd be in charge of. And so I knew it was like the opportunity of my lifetime. And I knew it would be really, really hard. I knew it would be the hardest thing I'd ever done professionally. And so I gave myself a minute to freak out. I mean, not even freak out, but just be a little scared, a little
overwhelmed, I'm sure. Yeah.
And then I pulled it together and told my agent and lawyer, okay, make the deal. I'm going to start thinking about how to do a sequel.
Right. Yeah, that's what it would be.
Yeah. And it isn't as though then Eric left the building. I mean, he was there
in season 6.
Yeah, he was he taught me, he took me behind the curtain for the second half of season 5 more than I ever had been before, as did Bob and post and things like that. And then listen, Warner Brothers wasn't going to let him just like take off to Aruba and like, okay, so this lady who was your number 2, who's like really good at yes-anding you, is suddenly going to just be there. But he was there every single week. He was deep in development on his new shows, but he read all the stuff. He came in, he gave me notes, he gave me a lot of advice. And so, it was very much a group project, especially season 6.
I see.
Yeah.
Did you think if there was going to be a changing of the guard that you were the heir apparent?
I don't think I thought of it in those terms. I did know that I understood a lot about how Eric's mind worked. And when you are a writer on staff, that's your job. You're not meant to be a writer on staff and then just turn in your idea of what the best possible script is. You're trying to match your boss's idea of what the best possible script is. So internalizing their voice, their priorities, their reason for making the show, that's how you succeed on a writing staff. And I think from the very first interview I had with Eric, like there's a creative way that he and I really understand each other. We're not precisely the same, I think, as writers, but I got it. And I think for that reason, and then the fact that I'm a compulsively responsible person who would show up to work if my arm had been chopped off, I think those 2 factors.
That's a perk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey there, this is Jared Padalecki, and I hope you're enjoying the episode. But we gotta pull over for a second for some messages. We're back.
We're talking about the writer's room, Supernatural being kind of a unique situation. Is there anything about that writer's room you've taken with you to your other shows?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't do, we definitely have writer's rooms, have had big writer's rooms, and meaning writer's rooms a lot, writer's rooms almost every day on the other shows that I've run, but they're much more serialized. So it wouldn't make sense to send someone off. But I do very much understand the benefit of giving a writer ownership over an individual episode, all its treasures, and also like all its problems. And I try to do that midway through so that we have somebody sweating it out for every single episode in the room who will stop us if we're glossing over something. And, my goal when I'm putting a room together and running a room is to create an atmosphere where people do feel empowered to speak up and do their best work. And one way to do that is to say, okay, go off, think about these and come back at least some of the time. Yeah.
Right.
It's
like having homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was there anything you dramatically did not like about the Supernatural writer's room that you're like, oh man, I'm glad to see that in the rearview mirror?
Ben is so good at drawing, and it just made me feel like shit when I was doodling every day.
Yeah.
I
feel you.
I mean, I remember in season 6, I came into his office and he had drawn this, like, I think it was the devil, and it took up most of his whiteboard. And he had broken the episode very carefully in beautiful comic book handwriting around this incredible drawing, which, by the way, did not come down for my tenure on the series.
Oh my God.
And I looked at it and I'm like, did you do that so we can't change the break because it looks perfect like this? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, must be fun to be you.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah.
Wow. He's so funny. We've had him on the podcast a few times.
I adore him. Yeah.
Yeah. He told Rich and I, he was like, you're officially, I think you're my best friends now.
We
He talks to us more than
We all kind of considered him the family genius, I think. And
totally.
That's something that, Kripke once said it to my face. He was like, look, Ben Edlund's Ben Edlund. The rest of us have to work a little harder. Yeah. So I spent my whole time there from the moment he kind of arrived being a bit in awe of his talent.
Yeah. I would feel like he was like kind of the secret weapon for Supernatural,
Yeah, he's responsible for certainly a lot of the weirdest shit he's on that show.
Yeah.
So how was the support, internal support, meaning your other writers, when you take over?
Well, I mean, support is an interesting way of putting it because essentially I stepped into being their boss. So
that what I guess I meant, like, did you get attitude? Were they cool with it? Because it's a different thing. You were on their level, and then you were not.
It was one of the amazing gifts of stepping into season 6 to run the show is that it was truly a well-oiled machine all across the board. I credit both Eric, who has very particular ways of keeping schedules and making people responsible for things, and Bob, who had, I don't know, decades of experience in getting a show on time and on pattern. So I walked into a room full of professionals who already knew their job. I hired a couple people, and by me, I mean, Bob and Eric were sitting next to me in those first round of hiring meetings. So like Termello and Snyder, people like that. But no, they weren't babies about it. They were like, I don't know what they were talking about when they went out to coffee, but the transition.
Vibe, and you weren't getting the vibe. It was all good.
I mean, I think it was a tough but fair experience. And I think the least of it was I didn't have any bandwidth to worry too much about what people were thinking about it because it truly was, it's hard to even explain what the jump up in percentage of work is when you become the showrunner. I think if I knew, I would maybe have cried for a week. I knew my job by then. I was good at it. If he sent me off for a week or 2 weeks to write a script, like I knew I could take a couple days and go just fuck off and have fun and then start writing. And that entirely went away. So much of it was just me trying to sink or swim with all of the stuff that was landing on my desk every morning. And I mean, I really can only speak from inside my experience, but I remember having a conversation with my mom as I was stepping into the role. And she is a doctor and she has, run wards. She's a psychiatrist. She was often put in charge of things. And she was like, my advice is, nice is a weird word. Nice is a slippery word. Professional is the most important word in your vocabulary. So you need to really know what your standard of professional thoughtful behavior is before you walk in, and you need to keep reminding yourself of it. And as long as you know that you're doing that every day, then that'll be a way of keeping kind of an unemotional check on the moments when the stress is big or the moments when people seem like, that's not the episode I wanted. That was a very helpful piece of advice as I stepped into like my adult job.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if people in this business, there was more of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's always nice. So I want to ask you a few specific Supernatural things. If you don't remember, it's totally cool. But so one of our favorite, or my favorite season 6 things was Soulless Sam.
Yeah.
Rob had such a crush on Soulless Sam that I had to listen to it endlessly.
It was fun to see him not giving a shit. So
we love a psychopath.
Yeah,
just as
right,
a culture.
Exactly. Yeah, how was as a writer or as a showrunner crafting Soulless Sam as opposed to writing for normal Sam?
It was so fun. It's so fun to be with a character for a long time, really know how they'll react in a situation, and then get an opportunity to write the opposite. like Soulless Sam exists by contrast to the guy you meet who's so sensitive and so thoughtful and caring and does the research and all this stuff. And then this guy kind of just didn't give a shit. I have to give credit to Bob. He was because he's like, I think when he comes out of hell, not all of him comes out. That was his idea. And generally things you see in a season, we talked about the season before. We obviously, right, we have to plan for it. Right. I also, you know, as time goes on, if you're fortunate enough to be on a show with a lot of episodes, I mean, as you guys know, because we would have actors on and then we'd be like, but they could also be this other, what if he's also an angel, right? Or whatever. Right. Because we just want to do more fun stuff with actors that we like and admire. And, you know, at that point, Jared had been playing Sam for a long time. I was like, this is not going to be boring for him. This is going to be a new challenge. And I think he deserves to be challenged and delighted when he comes to work.
Yeah, and he says that it was one of his favorite things to play. He really loved playing that, and I could see why. Like my character eventually became the bad guy at the end of the series, and it's fun to play that too. It's fun to play like you don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. You know, so many great episodes happened under your tenure. Like French Mistake is possibly the best episode. People rank it number one.
It's what always gets the sort of top slot. You know.
Yeah. Oh, really? It's a banger. It's the weirdest episode we ever did, I think.
It is, sure. But I mean, a big swing, and it works perfectly. Well, you're nervous. I mean, obviously, you had Edlund writing that, right? Is that an Edlund script? But it's your call. You pulled the trigger on that. Were you nervous at all, like that was a big reach, or what were your thoughts?
No, I knew immediately it was going to be amazing. I think, first of all, we had that frog in boiling water for a long time. We were a really meta show. We enjoyed early and often. We would poke at the conventions of the genres that we were in. We would we had referenced fandom in a lot of other ways by then, as you know. And this was like the evolution. So the moment I heard it, I was just so delighted. I was like, of course, this is like the final form of the particular meta of this show and this show only. And when you hear an idea that is perfect for exactly the show you're writing and kind of couldn't be done in that way anywhere else, like you have to do it, you know? And I don't remember us getting pushback, by the way. I think everyone just thought it was funny.
It was so well done. And you're right. I was, as Rob and I have gone episode by episode in order, it's baffling how Supernatural can pull off. I mean, now we look back and we know it worked. But when you're watching it, and you're like forward watching, and you're watching this intense drama end dramatically, and then the next episode is black and white, and here comes Dracula. You're like, whoa! It really took some big swings, and they all worked.
Yeah,
crazy.
They really work.
Did they all work? Thank you. I'm not sure they all work.
Well, I tell you, we're 1 through 7, and all of the ones that would be sort of what genre bending, or like you're looking at the lens or whatever it is, it sort of is the thing that is slightly not the recipe that is the show. They all work. They all it all seems to be worth the effort. You know what I mean?
I can tell you what that feels like from what it felt like from the inside. It's like, first of all, the story that Eric told about how the show came to be on the air, the development process, he would tell the story about how the first draft was much more serious. And he got some very good notes. And I don't know if they actually said to him, be more irreverent, or if he just decided that's how he was going to take the note. But as soon as he went back in to the script and he infused Sam and Dean with the level of irreverence that we know, I think something clicked for him. So we came into this, like our first day at work, when you're sort of discussing the mission statement of the writer's room and what kind of stuff, he made it very clear, this is not going to be some faux Shakespeare apocalypse bullshit. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. These guys have been doing this a long time. When you've had a job for a long time, you make jokes on the job, even when the job is hard. And that, it just gave us permission to start with that.
Yeah.
I think you pair that with the other discovery we made in season 1 about how to write the brothers' relationship. And then you kind of have a ticket to, well, the show is the show, whether it is someone's dying and we must save them and it's very serious, or it's like, why are we suddenly in a musical? It could be anything.
Right. Yeah. And humor, it's cool, to allow that in.
Well, you landed
had
with
that
two guys, Jared and
lightness.
Jensen, who could pull off jokes.
Yeah.
They have a wide range, both of them. We're very, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously none of this without them. I mean, they pulled it off and they encouraged it. And writers, I wonder if it feels creepy to you guys. It's like, we're really watching you in post, and then you get the next script and you're like, this is how they see my strengths. This is how they're writing to myself. I can imagine it might feel a little stalkery, eerie. But it's true. We know, at a certain point, we're talking about Jared's facility with physical comedy and
right.
like the one-liners would land from Jensen. And yeah, it's so fun. And I mean, I credit my time on that show with being very, very protective of that freedom in every show I've developed since. There is always a moment where when you're developing a 1 hour that's dramatic, and especially if it's like monsters are going to kill the world, something serious we would take seriously, where you make a choice to keep that real life tone where, like, my experience in real life is like people do crowd work at a funeral. Like we are funny. We do have gallows humor. It is both things at the same time, always. Right. So I make a really strong point of building it in, because I don't want to trap myself in a dour, sad story. I don't want to trap the audience in it, most of all.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You apparently posted on Instagram that Death's Door with Bobby's death was the episode closest to my heart, is what you said.
Yeah.
From your time as a showrunner. Why is it? What was it about that episode?
I just found it moving to write. It also was like a bunch of stuff I love that came together. I wanted, part of it is that I think Jim Beaver is a genius, and I just wanted to give him something really meaty and juicy. Yeah. And there was really a strong rule that started early, where it's like you in horror movies, no one is safe. And so, for better or for worse, the show does better when the audience is afraid of losing the people they care about. The same way Sam and Dean are always afraid of losing the people they care about. Right. So there was nothing controversial within the room, and talking to, Bob, Eric, the writer's room, about killing him off, at least temporarily, for a minute, in that episode. But I was like, oh, it's going to be inside his mind. I had everybody read this short story I really love by Tobias Wolff called Bullet in the Brain.
Oh, wow.
In it, snarky, I think, English professor gets shot in the head during a botched robbery. And then the whole rest of the short story takes place in the time it takes for the bullet to move through the brain tissue and kill him, because your thoughts are faster than the speed of a bullet. And so he gets this retrospective of his whole life. And though it begins with him being kind of a dick, by the end, it's so emotional, because what it adds up to is why this man became who he was and what he loved in this lifetime. And it's incredibly satisfying. And I was like, I want to do that. So when we first started that episode, I was like, the whole episode will take place in the time it takes from the bullet to go in, to go out. And then, of course, we had to serve a bigger story, so we slowed it down. Right. But I was like, oh, when we're in his head, we're going to have so much fun. It's going to be sad. It's going to be funny. It's going to have one of my favorite creatures, the Reaper. Jensen's going to get to do one of his sweet spots, which is being enraged at somebody for harming someone he loves. It kind of had all the things.
It's a great episode.
Great episode.
Oh, thank you.
And I tell you, that is not one. If I haven't seen an episode, there's many we haven't seen, but if it's sort of made its way into this sort of lore I've heard of French Mistake and things like that, so you watch it and you have an expectation. This one just came out of nowhere. It just took me by complete surprise. It was just so emotional and moving. And
Jim is so great in it, and you get to find out things, like you said, the things about Bobby we didn't know in his past.
Just a glorious and heartbreaking exploration of his origin story.
Oh,
in
stop
such
it
a
some more.
unique way. Pardon?
Stop it some more.
Let me tell you something. I love the way you did it as a play. That became fascinating to me. The staging of it, and which I'm sure is on the page, of he's an audience to his own life until he isn't, until he steps on the stage. It's just a beautiful, elevated episode of television.
Thank you.
So phenomenal.
I think I didn't fully understand this at the time. I just knew, I'm going to be in my sweet spot. I'm going to have so much fun writing this. I'm going to make people cry, which is also something I like to do with my writing. Looking back, when it's like, okay, I'm going to go on a podcast and talk about this show that was basically my grad school as a writer. I went in really green and I came out a showrunner. It's like, by that point, I was pretty fully realized as a TV writer, I think. And so I understood exactly what I care about inside of what we could broadly call it horror, because I think that's like a big master genre that hangs over all the episodes in a way. But I knew that I liked things that are really scary when they're scary, but deeply psychological, emotional, and that kind of makes sense even if you take the paranormal, magical, whatever out of it. It becomes just about something. You could tell the story. Why would you want to tell the story without a Reaper? But you could tell the story without the Reaper.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the writer I became on the show.
That's cool.
Well,
that's great to have that.
Yeah, it's so great. And I actually really like the Reaper. And when we reviewed it, we called out that actor. We thought he did a great job of playing
Henri Lubati.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Henri
memory
Lubati.
there,
Henri Lubati.
It might be Henri because we did shoot in Canada,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of Henri happening.
Henri,
Henri.
Yeah.
And he was great. He struck the tone that you needed for that sort of ticking clock element for Bobby, or at least Bobby's sort of, there's a chase element. Bobby's outrunning this thing while trying to experience this life journey. And without that episode, one of the things Rob and I noticed in that is that so much of Bobby that we know later in the years is folksy Bobby. I didn't know he was perceived as an alcoholic in the show. They talk about like Bobby the drinker, Bobby the local drunk, whatever. And there's a lot of these references to that with him. And what I thought was great about this episode specifically is it gave service to that off the cuff comment about this character, where you get to see the root of that tree. Like what is he keeping at bay? What is that flask doing that his heart doesn't want to do on its own? I just thought it was a really interesting exploration of who he is, and then it forms, if you go back and watch Bobby before that episode affects how you see Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty clear that guys who do what all these guys do, I mean, for a living, but you know what I mean, their calling, their vocation, they don't expect to live long. They've been terribly, terribly traumatized at a pretty young age, all of them.
Right.
They're basically war veterans with PTSD who never, ever leave the battlefield. So we didn't want to make a big deal about it. We were never going to do one of those PSA kind of episodes of Supernatural. I mean, except to make fun of it. We would never try to have you hug and learn, in an episode of Supernatural. But we also wanted to be fair. The cost is really great to all these characters.
Yeah.
And then at the end of season 6, you introduced the Leviathan. Did you know that season 7 was going to be Leviathan was going to be the big bad?
Yep.
So
we needed a whole new one.
Yeah,
you got to. So let's talk about the visuals of that Leviathan, because, man, when that thing first opens up and goes, wah, that is an insane visual that just gets cooler and cooler as the season goes on. How did that manifests itself when you're creating this big bad? Are you like, and this is what they're going to look like, guys, so prepare yourself? Like,
it's I mean, you start to think about it and envision it, and as you're writing the script, you're filling it in, but a lot of that also happens in prep, because your VFX supervisor and your physical effects people, they need a direction. So you're doing things like sending them pictures of weird sea creatures that are like, full of teeth and creatures from other shows, and it becomes and then they'll show you something from a movie made in Japan that you've never heard of, and it'll come together from there.
Interesting.
It's
so
such a
putting
cool
that
visual
in the pot, kind of stir it up, see what comes. Do you remember casting James Patrick Stewart? It's funny because he told us a story that you pulled him aside after his audition and you said, "You're creepy."
Did I say that?
Yeah. Which is a compliment if you're playing creepy.
I hope he took it that way.
He did.
He did 100%. He kept kind of coming back to that in his head, like, yeah, he's creepy.
I mean, I don't remember like a ton about it. I'm not surprised to hear I said that to him. Like Misha said, I kind of remember Misha saying, like, meeting Misha at a party, and he still thought he was kind of just doing 3 or 6 episodes, and I was like, but I had seen his entrance, and I was like, this show is going to change your life. And he thought I was psychotic, I think. He's like, why is this lady telling me that this little role on this little show on this little network is going to change my life? But I mean, I was proved right? I just knew he wasn't going anywhere. And when he walked in to be Dick Roman, he just had it. There's a thing with villains where actors who have like a glorious capacity in this direction, it is effortless. There is no pushing, because power, when you have more power, you push less. You very rarely have to be that person who stomps and wails, which is something you can keep in mind when you watch people freak out all day, every day on the internet now. It's like the people who are really in power are not to sound conspiratorial. It's to sound a little conspiratorial. The people who are really in power, they don't need to ever throw time. And he had that quality, that sort of slightly Patrick Bateman-y quality,
totally,
of just enjoying a world that served him completely. So that was a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
He's so fun to watch.
Very American Psycho.
Role. Oh my God.
Hey there, it's Misha Collins. If you're like me, you want a break from the sound of Richard Spate's voice, we'll be right back after this.
We're back. Thanks.
How about casting Osric Chow? Do you remember casting Osric as the prophet?
I just remember him being like adorable in the role.
Yeah.
Like so charming.
He's a cutie pie.
Casting is more art than science, I think. And I don't know if you were going to ask or not, but I don't remember the casting for either of you. I just remember being delighted by the dailies.
That's good.
But when I'm in that room, you know, I try to forget what I wanted it to be. I kind of want you to walk in and just do it how you see it and surprise me, or not surprise me, just fulfill it in a way that makes sense. And then the only piece of math I ever do in my head, I think consistently, is just thinking this person is going to be in a scene with this other person. And what is the other person's energy? You could play that game watching Jared and Jensen too. Like whose energy goes kind of here and whose energy goes here. You don't need, you have two people at the same frequency, it's going to be a lot, or the scene will die. And, you know, so without remembering the exact situation, I can tell you that that's the math I was doing. I was kind of just thinking about his energy, and that I wanted to watch him more.
Yeah, that's got to feel really good. I mean, I've experienced it a little bit. Rich has as a director, and you know, just on the other side of an actor, when you see the right person reading the role, and you're like, yep, that's my person.
It hurt a little with you because it's like, okay, Eric, why don't you scream a little louder about how pathetic writers are? I mean, we probably got away with more as a show because we were really mean to ourselves. You know, like you came on to represent, like, this is what it's like to be us.
That's hilarious.
No, drinking, locked inside, never see the sun. Yeah.
I mean, particularly Eric, there's like I mean, you know, he's also a dynamic and a genius and all of the things, like, you know, whatever. I don't need to defend Eric. You've met Eric, but he's not the guy who's like, someone will walk in and just go, and he'll be like, I need 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C brought in immediately. Very that guy, you know.
That's hilarious.
That is funny.
So listen,
real quick, he talked about in season 5 when they sort of suggested I was God at the end of that season. He was like, are we doing this? Are we, as writers, are we really saying that God is a writer? He talks a a lot about that.
I think it was right. And it's also, it's not a good thing, but it sounds right.
No. Yeah.
Well, you get season 7, especially with James Patrick Stewart as your big bad. It's just so much fun. Why deploy your chute? Like, why did you decide 2 seasons was enough as the showrunner?
I mean, because, well, for one thing, that's 150 something episodes I was on the show. Yeah.
Wow.
And to a much lesser extent than Eric, who had been with the show for years before it even started, I had the same concern he did. There were times earlier when I was just on his staff that I was like, I don't know how I can keep coming up with pitches. I pitched him 1,000 episodes. And then I became an executive producer, and something clicked in my head, and I was like, oh, I can come up with episodes forever. Like, I just saw the Matrix, but I had the same feeling after 2 seasons. I felt like, okay, I did the job I came in to do. The show is still running. I can hand it over the same well-oiled machine that was handed to me with lots of directions for it to go. And I don't need to stay here and do 300 episodes. I was frankly ready to go write something new at that point.
Gotcha. Yeah. And did you in terms of passing the baton was Jeremy Carver, your obvious
Yeah.
choice. You were like, I know it's going to be Jeremy.
It wasn't up to me to pick, but he was an obvious choice.
Did you have a voice in the selection?
I was just like, yeah, that guy will be great. He had been there and then left, and so he knew the job, and he's a really good guy and fantastic to work with. Very, very sad not to get to work with him straight through. And so I was, and he had been running another show, and I thought, he gets it. He's perfect. I don't know much about what that experience was for him. Like, I would run into him every now and then at some, I don't know, cocktail charity thing, whatever. Yeah. And I would sort of just like look him up and down and be like, he's well enough rested. I think it's going okay for him. Yeah.
Did you, how far into season 7 did you know you were going to make that choice? Like, when you knew that it was going to be your last season?
I had a 2-season contract, and I kind of went into it figuring that.
Oh, really?
It was like, it was like, okay, so I'm gonna kind of like pick up this ball after Swan Song, figure out how does this show reset itself for its sort of what I think is kind of the beginning of its second act. In retrospect, I had no idea it would go that long, but like, how can we do this and kind of prove that the show is still the show, that it has life in it, it can still surprise you, and there's more story to tell about these brothers. And I mean, I did the math in both directions. Like, 1 season wouldn't have been enough, but I was like, 2 seasons, I'll learn the job, I'll give it my all. And I did. It was some of the least sleep I think I've ever had in my life. Yeah. And then I will probably need a nap. And I did. I didn't.
You made reference to pitching Eric a lot of shows, which I'm sure is the process. I'm just curious, because I'm not in that position. How many pitches before you get one in the glove? I mean, like, how many ideas do you think were shot down per successes? I
think it was probably at least 4 or 5 to 1 every time I came in. I would come in with 4 or 5 pitches, and he would maybe pick one. Wow. And then maybe that stat has like other stuff we're just talking about over lunch. Like, I think a lot of times ideas were born just because, I mean, he and I would have like a running joke or something, and then it would spontaneously become an episode.
That's funny.
There's like, he also, he was a tough boss in a good way. Like, I remember that at the time I felt it, but now I look back and I'm like, I really respect it. I remember coming back after a hiatus and going into the room to do the thing where all the writers pitch episodes, and I pitched 4, and he came into my office afterwards and he sat down and he's like, you need to pitch better pitches. And wow. I was horrified, of course. I was like, oh God, sure. I've done my job poorly. But first of all, he was right. Those were not good ideas, I think, or not producible, which is the same as not good. And also, the thing I love about him is he didn't tell me what to change or fix. He just left the room.
Wow, do better.
So I just stewed in it. And like, that works, by the way. If you have an employee who wants to do a really, really good job and you just say, that ain't it, and you leave, they'll kill themselves to come up with something better. And that was my wake-up call of like, oh, he is expecting more from me. And he probably wasn't thinking about it on this deep level. He probably just was like, was Sera asleep at the wheel today? Like, usually her shit's a little bit better. But to me, it was like, okay, this person expects me to do the best work I possibly can. And that's actually a really empowering feeling in the long run. Once I got like ouch of it, 2, 3, maybe season 3-ish. Yeah, I think in the long run, you want to be working for people who give a shit about the quality of your work, and who don't just want you to just sort of like check a few boxes for them to then just take it over. That was, I think, in retrospect, a portal into me asking myself questions about how I could continue to up my game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you don't have to second guess like what he's thinking. He's telling you exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Not saying it behind your back. He's saying it to your face.
Like, it's funny. I just remembered this. But my contract was up. It was like the end of season 3, something like that, 3, 4, whatever. And the pattern, and in retrospect, this was just a practical matter, right? Because we had 1 billion episodes to make a season, and Eric was responsible for making sure everyone was in the proper condition before it went to the studio. So usually what would happen is I would turn it in. He would give me what he likes to call a muscular set of notes, where he would go through, and sometimes those were an hour and a half of just like, this needs to change and we need to fix this. And sometimes it's re-breaking, and sometimes it's just like, this shit ain't funny. And then I would turn in a revised draft. He'd be like, great job. And then he would rewrite it and he would send it in. And I would pour over that rewritten draft to try to figure out what he had changed and why. And I couldn't always figure it out. This is really a learning moment for me that I took into being a showrunner, but also kind of took into being a person who negotiates contracts. Because like you think of a contract as like, I can ask for more money or I can ask for a higher title. But one of the things I asked him for was more feedback. I said, I know that the pattern on this show is that you do 2 rounds of notes if we have time. And I know this is practical. And I know you have too many things to do in a day. I didn't actually know how many things he had to do in a day. I just got the sense it was a lot. It was more than I thought. But I'm really trying to understand why you rewrite me. I don't mind. I know it's my job to be rewritten. And I know it's your job to write the script the way it needs to be written. I just think I could do a better job if you told me, if I could ask a few more questions, basically. And he's like, he was surprised. And then he was like, yeah, sure. And from then on, sometimes he gave me another pass. Sometimes the script would come out and I'd just be like, page 37, and he would walk me through it. I think maybe, he might not even remember this, but I think maybe if there was a moment that Eric was like, oh, that's the next showrunner, it might've been then, because I very clearly wanted to make the show he wanted to make and push myself to do that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
That's such a clever and valuable request on your part.
Yeah, I feel like people should keep it in their pocket, that contracts are whatever you want them to be. You can ask for literally anything when, when your contract is up for renewal. So think about, you won't always get it, but think about what you really want. And just because.
But that's for the greater good of the show. Like your request was not, I mean, it benefited you, but it wasn't self-serving.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, my career benefits me, but when I'm running a show, it's only self-serving in that that's what pays my bills. I'm trying to make the best show I can. And that's so much bigger than me.
Right.
And I was really clear on it. I was making more money at that point than I ever expected to make as an artist. I was kind of expecting to like more or less live in my car and never have dental insurance. And I was fine. I was cool. I was climbing the ladder really fast. But what I wanted was to be a creator and a showrunner. And so what I really wanted was to get further behind the curtain to understand how he did what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're such big fans of yours. You is such a great show. Big fan of you. And
again, the grammar. You is such a good show, but it really is. I mean, man, that's a great show.
Thank you.
Such a good show. And you have a poetry book. Our Lady of the Sick Girls recently won the Chapman Book Prize. Will people be able to order that?
Yes, it's the Wolfson Press Chapbook Prize.
Okay.
And it will be out in 2026. So
Great.
I'm working with an editor now. I've been a poet. Well, I've been like the angsty kind of poet who goes to open mic night since I was about 16.
Amazing.
But it was sort of my unofficial minor in college. But there have been various times in my life where I was like, I'm definitely going to be a writer. But there were also a lot of times where I was going to be an actor or a musician or a lot of other things. I was always a writer thinking that was just for me. And a great way to write things that will never make you a cent is to be a poet. So I was doing that for the love of it, and then ended up with this career that is more, we'll call it commercial, viable, steady.
Right.
And I concentrated completely on that for a long, long time. And then during the pandemic, I was like, what can I do that I love, that gives me pleasure, that doesn't give me germs? And I was like, go back and take some more poetry workshops. So I've been back in it for about 5 years now and submitting my stuff. And finally, at this point in my life, I'm going to publish a collection.
That's fantastic. Great. And it's so great that it'll be available for people to get and absorb. Where did you go to school? You mentioned having a minor. Where did you do your studies?
I was in the theater department at UCLA.
Nice. Oh, cool.
Yeah. In 1941.
I was like, then war broke out in Europe. I remember.
Exactly. I beat you to that one, yeah.
Whatever your 1941 is, it's not as long ago as our 1941. So you're in safe hands here.
Yeah.
So
and then you have the Substack.
Yeah, you got new stuff. You got something else coming up. Walk us through it.
The timing of this conversation is weirdly perfect because on October 6th, I'm going to launch a Substack. I know I'm the only person in America launching a Substack, but as you maybe could even tell from this conversation, it means a lot to me to talk about writing and our business and our kinds of careers in a way that is helpful for people who want to have a career like this. So I've spent years answering people's questions about writing and the business on Instagram. And I did a little YouTube series interviewing people. There's a Kripke episode if people want to go see that. And finally I was like, my problem with Instagram is brevity. I should be writing long, like real how-to technique.
Yeah.
Here's how you make a pilot better. Here's how you don't fuck up an interview. And at this point in my life, kind of also in a more general way, like how to be a creative person and artist in the world that we actually live in, how to balance those impulses with what we need to do to just be in the world. So it's called How to Invent the Universe. And I think this is the like official announcement is on your podcast.
Oh, I love it. Look at that, Rich.
Robbie, we've arrived.
We've arrived.
That's a great title, by the way.
Sera Gamble announced her Substack.
It is a great title for a Substack. That's
Thank
very
you.
clever.
I will.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like, I banked a few pieces and I reference Supernatural all the time. I learned, like I said, it was my graduate school, but I plan to write more about like the specific stuff I learned on different episodes as I go on. And so there'll be something in there for the people who have been listening to your podcast.
Yeah, the listeners of this podcast will love it.
Yeah,
and we'll make sure
they'll
we
love
put all the details about that and your book of poetry.
Appreciate it.
So people can get that. Yeah. Sarah, it's honestly, we were so excited when we found out you were coming on the show.
I'm not even
Like I
kidding.
said,
That sounds like some BS interview
No.
thing. When Steve got an email back from you, he sent it back and he's like, I think she said yes. And we look at the email like, she did say yes. Holy smokes, guys. She said yes.
Yeah.
We were fired up.
Rich and I were actually at a Supernatural convention. He was like, hey, Sid, we got Sarah. And we were delighted.
Yeah. So fired up to have you do this conversation.
Yeah. When I'm in a cave, like, I've been writing pilots, and when I'm in a cave, it's just sort of like, I forget that the human race exists. So it did take me a minute.
That's fair. No, listen, I mean,
yeah.
we know you're busy, but your perspective, aside from your library of work that's so incredibly impressive, but the origin story that's connected to this show, which has meant so much to so many people for so many decades and will continue to do so, it's just a valuable conversation to have in this moment in time to preserve in this way. So we really, really appreciate it.
Thanks. Isn't it cool to see everybody talk about the 20th anniversary?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, you don't pick, none of us get to pick what will happen to the things we make. And the things we're a part of, and all of us have been a part of a lot of stuff. And when I see people online saying how affected they were by the show, how it got them through something, all of those things, and that they're still celebrating it, that makes me feel really good. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
really,
you.
really lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks.
I am still completely giddy and stunned that we got a chance to sit down with her.
Who do we have to credit? Do we credit Hein?
I got to go Hein. And I don't like to throw Hein a W in the column unless he earns it, but
this has got Hein all over it.
Hein on it. Truly, I mean, good job, Hein. And by the way, I read his email. It's pretty straightforward. Like I don't know.
It's that Hein energy.
I don't know what Heineism got through
he's
there.
So smooth. Well, nevertheless, it was so great to talk to Sarah, and
her perspective is so valuable, man, and it's just not one that I've heard much. It was so great, to hear her tell her story unfettered, and without time limits, just to have her go and talk and explain and reflect, and what a great conversation.
Yeah, and she was she was there from the beginning, and she was in the trenches for 7 seasons, and she knows this show as well as the best of them.
Yeah.
So it's terrific, and to see how great she's doing out there.
Oh, she's just killing it, man. She's just killing it.
Well, that was great. What fun to do these the spotlight episodes.
We got Sera Gamble. It's a spotlight.
Spotlight.
This is the theme song that you forgot, Rob.
Spotlight.
We got a theme song called Spotlight.
But we'll do it at the beginning of the episode.
You're not my boss. His name is Steve Hein.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. I think next up we're going to do a wrap up of season 7.
Like a
Leviathan. And then we can't think of anything to rhyme with Leviathan, and that's the end of the rap.
That's the end of it. But we're definitely gonna have we're gonna drag Trey Booty kicking and screaming out of his cavern.
Yes.
Make him we're gonna make him say what he likes, what he doesn't like, and of course we're gonna get Hein on the record. Booty, you can put reverb on that. Hein on the record. Hein has to say what he likes and does not like. And by the way, he really throws some wrenches in the works. The end of season 6 still haunts me. I had to agree to some episodes I did not love because the hind factor.
I don't even remember what you're talking about. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you at the next one. This episode of Supernatural Then and Now is hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine and edited and associate produced by the man in the cavern, Trey Booty.
What's up, buddy?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
The podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. We're stopping.
Story Mill Media.
American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Amy Nicholson, the film critic for the LA Times.
And I'm Paul Scheer, an actor, writer, and director. You might know me from The League, Veep, or my non-eligible for Academy Award role in Twisters.
We love movies, and we come at them from different perspectives.
Yeah, like Amy thinks that, Joe Pesci was miscast in Goodfellas, and I don't.
He's too old. Let's not forget that Paul thinks that Dune 2 is overrated.
It is.
Anyway, despite this, we come together to host Unspooled, a podcast where we talk about good movies, critical hits,
fan favorites, must-sees, and in case you missed them.
We're talking Parasite to Home Alone.
From Grease to The Dark Knight.
We've done deep dives on popcorn flicks. We've talked about why Independence Day deserves a second look.
And we've talked about horror movies, some that you've never even heard of, like Ganja and Hess.
So if you love movies like we do, come along on our cinematic adventure.
Listen to Unspooled wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to hit the follow button.